Are there risks with seller financing? Yes, there's two risks that are worth talking about as it relates to seller financing. The first is the due on sale clause. We're not going to go into detail on that. Make sure to watch the video, Is Seller Financing Legal? In that video, we talk about it in much more detail. So the first risk really is the due on sale clause. Please make sure to watch that video. The second risk is the risk of whether or not the buyer is going to make the payments. So in this video, I'm going to be talking to both you, the buyer, and you, the seller, about the risks of considering seller financing. And that risk applies to both of you for the due on sale clause, as well as applies to both of you for whether or not a payment's missed. Here's my advice, my recommendation. We're really trying to create a win-win situation with seller financing. And it's hard to talk about the risks without talking about all the benefits. But the question is asked, what are the risks? So the second risk of a buyer missing a payment is simply mitigated by the amount of the down payment which a seller gets. As a real estate agent, for me, that rule of thumb is 10%. That puts enough skin in the game for a seller that they're willing to carry some of that risk. And it's enough skin in the game for a buyer that they're going to make sure that they make their payment. In addition, when we create the seller financing documents, or specifically the promissory note, I encourage both the buyer and the seller to agree to a late payment penalty that is substantial enough to make sure that there's nothing else that becomes a higher priority than that mortgage payment. So there is the risk that a buyer could miss a mortgage payment. And in that event, the seller, the bank, is going to fall back on the down payment to evict or to foreclose on the buyer. So buyers understand that down payment and the home you're living in, it's no different than if you were to get a loan from a bank. Seller, you need to put yourself in a position to make sure that you're protected and have enough skin in the game by the buyer so that foreclosing on them and taking the property back is something that you can do and do quickly. As I mentioned, I recommend 10% down. Additionally, when working with our team, we're going to make sure that we go through the screening process to find the best buyers on the market and to make sure that we can, again, create that win-win situation. So that's just a little bit about the risks of seller financing. Like anything, there's risks with them. I think that there's a lot of ways to mitigate these risks.